They always say rivers carry more than just water. They carry secrets, grief, sometimes things we were never meant to see. I was 24 when I first saw her, the woman across the river. That spring the rains came down heavy and the ground stayed wet for weeks. The river behind our cottage swelled fat and fast, roaring like it had something to say. My husband Dan had gone out west looking for railroad work, and I stayed behind with his mother, old and mostly blind, and the baby. The only way to keep our linens clean, our diapers, our cloths, our lives, was to drag everything down the water's edge and scrub them by hand, like we'd always done. Every morning I'd carry my wash tub and soap out to the flat rock near the bend. You couldn't see much past the far bank, only trees, thick like walls, and the mist curling up from the water in long, white fingers. The air smelled of mud and something else, something sweet and rotting, like flowers left too long in the sun. It was quiet out there, peaceful mostly, but lonely too. You'd get to thinking when the birds went quiet and the wind died that maybe you weren't alone. And one morning, I wasn't. I'd just finished beating the linens when I looked up and saw her, standing across the river, half concealed in the trees. Her dress was old-fashioned, even for 1900, white, though it looked gray from the damp, and too thin for the cold spring air. Her hair was long, black and wet, hanging over her shoulders like curtains. And she didn't move, didn't blink. She just stared. I froze, thought maybe I'd imagined her. But when I blinked, she was still there, still watching. I called out, "Hello, are you all right?" She didn't answer. I gathered my things and left fast that day. Didn't tell anyone. Thought maybe it was someone from town, maybe lost or wandering. But there was something about her, something off. She didn't move like a person. She didn't seem real. The next morning she was gone. Days passed, no sign of her. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, or my own tired mind playing games. Then things started happening. It began small. My wash tub shifted from where I'd left it. Soap missing. Water colder than it had any right to be, biting through my skin even in the sun. I'd find footprints, bare and deep, in the mud near the water. But never mine, never facing the right direction. Always facing me. I started to dream of her, standing across the river, always watching. In the dreams her eyes were hollow, her mouth full of water. Then one morning she was back. Same place, same stillness. Her dress clung to her like skin, soaked and sagging. But this time she was closer. The river wasn't as wide as I remembered. Or maybe she'd moved. I didn't say anything to her, just watched. Then she smiled. I dropped everything and ran. Back to the house, I tried to tell Dan's mother, but she just patted my hand and said the river sometimes got into people's heads, especially women alone. But I wasn't alone, not anymore. The next day I stayed inside, and the next, but the linens piled up, and the baby's clothes began to stink, and I couldn't keep away forever. So I went back. The morning was still and gray. Fog sat on the water like a second skin. I told myself I'd be fast, just enough to get a wash in and come back home before the baby woke. But the river had other plans. I knelt to rinse a sheet, and when I looked up, she was right there. Across the river, closer than ever. I could see her eyes now, black and bottomless. Her mouth opened, and then she stepped forward, but not onto land, onto the water. It didn't hold her like it should have, Her feet sank just below the surface, but she kept moving, one step at a time, toward me. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. The water around her rippled, but she didn't sink. Her dress dragged behind her like a tail. Her arms rose, palms open. I turned to run, but the bank, wet from the rain, gave way. I slipped, tumbled into the current. The water was so cold it felt like knives stabbing every part of me. My lungs filled before I could scream. The river grabbed me, pulled me under, twisted me like cloth. Then something grabbed my ankle. I kicked, thrashed, but it held fast. I opened my eyes underwater and saw her face, right there, lips moving, bubbles spilling out, like she was singing to me. Her hands wrapped around my legs, dragging me down. And then, light. A branch caught my arm. I grabbed it and pulled, scraped, clawed my way to the surface. The cold tore the breath from me, but I crawled up the mud bank, gasping, choking, sobbing. When I looked back, she was gone. The river was calm again, silent, as if nothing had happened. I never went back. Not once, not even when the clothes piled so high they stank through the walls. I paid the neighbor girl a penny to fetch water from the well. I let the baby run bare. I stayed far from the window that faced the river. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I hear her voice in the distance, soft and slow, like a lullaby drowned in weeds. And I know she's still waiting for me to come back. But I won't. God help me, I won't.